It's no secret that EA has been pretty creative with ways to mess things up or piss people off for quite a while now. So would you believe me if I told you that it was actually EA that blessed us with one of humanity's greatest traditions? Review bombing. I have set out on a righteous quest to look into gaming's most interesting review bombs on this channel, so it's only natural that I became interested in the origins of this phenomenon. And an interesting tale it is. It all began with EA's release of a little game you might have heard of called Spore. If you've heard of Spore, you're familiar with the upsetting little nightmare creatures that it allows you to create. And if you're not, here's a quick little bit of Spore lore. Spore was designed by the iconic Will Wright of Maxis. You know, the little guy that made Sims. It was released in the year of our Lord, 2008. Ah, yes, 2008. The Great Recession hit and caused Hot Topic to change forever. I was obsessed with Liam Neeson being my dad in Fallout 3. Left 4 Dead was pretty cool. And then there was Spore. I vaguely remember playing it back then, but I just remember it being a fun little game that you opened when your mom let your friends come over. We'd all gather around the family computer that could barely run MS Paint and make phallic little abominations together. Truly, those were the days. I couldn't really think of anything that was so terrible about the game that it would cause a review bomb. And not just any review bomb. The review bomb that started it all. A glorious custom of the human race that carries on to this day.
Really nice going.
Blizzard.
That could have been an easy score, but no!
When you start a new game in Spore, you're just a little microscopic single-celled organism. You consume either meat or plants, and you continue eating stuff until you grow, and eventually you grow big enough to gain a brain and obtain sentience. Maybe one day I'll get there in real life. Then you eat some more stuff, grow an even bigger brain, and learn to use weapons and tools. This all eventually leads to your freakish monster civilization making it to space. In space, you fight for dominance to control the literal center of the universe. Overall, the game certainly isn't terrible, but it's definitely not great either. A lot of the life stages that you have to play through are kinda repetitive and a bit tedious, and they honestly go on a little bit too long in some cases. But there's a lot of good things about the game as well. Arguably, the best thing about the game is customizing your creatures and civilizations, which is pretty neat. It is an age-old tradition in Spore to make the most horrifying or most phallic thing you possibly can. While recording footage for this video, I decided to make this little fellow named Skrek. He actually makes me uncomfortable. Now that we know a little bit about the game, we can get back to that review bomb. So, what in the hell happened? Well, you see, there was a few layers to it. The game didn't necessarily receive the greatest first impressions, since a lot of the promised features simply weren't in the game. The game had a ton of hype up to its release, and for a lot of people, it just didn't live up to it. Now, there was also quite the meaty storm brewing with EA's choice of how they would handle piracy. This is what would ultimately become the biggest contributing factor. You see, originally EA had announced and planned to take anti-piracy measures that would make the owner of the game have to authenticate their software every 10 days. When that received backlash, they decided to dial it back to implementing a controversial copyright protection DRM called SecuROM. SecuROM is controversial for a few reasons, but the major one is that once you purchased Spore, SecuROM would allow you to install the game exactly 3 times.
What? No. No. What? No.
EA hoped that this would prevent people from sharing game discs with each other. Yeah, we used game discs back then. As well as preventing online piracy. People were extremely not happy with this, and for certain reasons, rightfully so. Securom would consider even minor hardware changes as a new PC, and thus a new install of the game, which is a potential concern to customers when you're only allowed 3 total installs. Due to a massive wave of complaints, this limit was eventually raised to a whopping 5 installs, with customer service considering further activations on a case-by-case basis. However, if you look into some old complaints from the time, it appears that getting a hold of customer service wasn't exactly easy, and it was even harder to convince them to help you if you did need their assistance with extra installs. Now, I'm sure you're starting to see the pieces come together as to what led to this review bomb. And boy did that bomb go off. To give you a sense of scale, by September 14, 2008, just 10 days after release, 2,016 out of 2,216 ratings on Amazon gave the game a 1-star review. That's pretty bad. These reviews predominantly cited the DRM implementation for their low ratings, with very few actually even mentioning the game itself. Now I've got something interesting here for you. Archaeologists uncovered a stone tablet with an original review from 2008. It reads, "The DRM on this thing is less friendly than my recent colonoscopy. You get 3 installs. That's it. No install returned for uninstallation or anything else. You install it 3 times, then you're out $50. I won't rent my video games, EA." It is then we'll hear the term review bombing used for the very first time in history. An article from Ars Technica in September of 2008 states, "Review bombing Amazon is a particularly nasty way of getting the point across as well. Casual gamers who aren't aware of this campaign may not bother to read the content of the reviews and only assume that the game isn't very good." Which, I mean, the game was kind of mid, but yeah, they're absolutely right. None of the reviews talked about the game itself, just the DRM debacle. In response, EA adamantly stood by their DRM, stating that it was a normal industry standard. Until... On September 22, 2008, EA was hit with a class action lawsuit. Apparently they decided not to list that Securom was included in the game. Anywhere. Not on the box, not in the game manual, or even in the license agreement. The lawsuit was due to this non-disclosure of Securom and its little issue of functioning via a rootkit that remained on your hard drive even if you uninstalled the game. But wait, there's more. On October 14, 2008, EA was hit with another lawsuit regarding the DRM being included in the free demo version of the Creature Creator. The funny fucking thing is, you guys, there was a fully cracked version of the game with no DRM released out onto the internet's high seas 2 full days before the game even released. This made Spore the most pirated game of 2008, and it's up there with some of the most pirated games of all time. That old 2008 article from Ars Technica says, "What's particularly jarring about the situation is that EA's PR nightmare didn't have to happen at all. The game was live all over BitTorrent days before the retail version was available. When the worst case scenario has already taken place, why continue to punish the gamers who actually want to support your work?" This is a fantastic question. Why did EA push so hard for this DRM, knowing it was genuinely pissing people off and causing ye old historic review bomb, when the pirating clearly wasn't slowed down or stopped at all? One of the major reasons for piracy is if the pirated version of something offers you a free and better experience, there's no reason not to pirate it. If you could just hop online and download Spore and not have to worry about, well, what if I upgrade my computer? What if something weird happens with my installs and I have to wait on hold with customer service for 9 billion years? What if I don't want this rootkit that comes with Securom to be on my computer for the rest of eternity? Companies really need to start realizing that the best form of anti-piracy is to offer a better service or product than the pirates can offer. Aside from the inconvenience, some forms of DRM actually affect the performance of the game and make it worse. If an overwhelming majority of customers hate your DRM, they're going to get the version without it, whether they have to pirate it or not. I think most people, myself included, would really rather just pay for the game. That way, it's coming from a safe and reputable source, and you're supporting the developers. Paying customers want the best version of the game. On the other hand, interestingly, despite all of the complaints and outrage, EA conducted some research and surveys and found that of these Spore users, only 14% had activated their product on more than one PC, and less than 1% tried to activate on more than 3 PCs. So, what was everyone so butthurt about?
War. War never changes.
And neither do gamers. We sure do love to be mad about shit, don't we? I think the outrage was more so at the idea of the DRM than any actual inconvenience that most users would have experienced. Like that 2008 review said, knowing that you could only install the game on 3 PCs really felt to people like they were just renting their game instead of owning it. I think people might have just been a little bit residually mad from having to fight off the whole every 10-day authentication thing as well, which, that one's fair. Now, despite all of the DRM stuff, Spore actually had alright sales. It certainly didn't hurt the company. And to this day, the game has a huge fan base that still religiously plays it, despite it being, not really that good in all aspects. However, there is an awful lot of nostalgia for this game, and like I mentioned before, it still has a huge fan base. Some of these fans leave some, pretty wild reviews. I will read one to you now. I didn't build my empire. I took it, tearing it down from the grasp of the species around me. What I couldn't buy with money, I bought with the blood of the innocent. My empire was pure. Only the clean survived. My empire was strong. I sifted the weak away like chaff. My empire was vast. We spread our might to the furthest corners of the galaxy. We were a people of pure war. Gunfire was our music. The smell of smoke and charred flesh was the sweetest of aromas. And the sight of corpses and ruins was the most beautiful sight there was. The universe was our canvas, and we painted it with blood. Death was our peace, and destruction was our prosperity. We made petty alliances with the other impure races of the galaxy. We used them to do our bidding. They smiled as they went to their deaths. Then, while they were busy, we claimed what was rightfully ours. We tore down their homes and slaughtered their people. It was but a mere amusement to the wars we had seen. Just something to pass the time. Others we wasted no time with. They were too unclean to be bothered with. They were dirt, and we were to clean the universe. We were to scrub their impurity out of the fabric of space and time. Some species fought back. Their fights were mightier than others, but still nothing compared to our vast power. Soon we met the Groks, a mighty empire that had claimed the center of the universe. The center of a universe that belonged to us. We waged war, and we do to this day. But that is what we want. After all this time, we met an empire that would wage war on us eternally. And so, our galactic history turned into a galactic love story. A story of two empires who have fallen in love with the war they wage on each other. 10 out of 10. Will recommend to the corpses of my enemies. Most of the other reviews just look like this. I make penis man. I laugh. If either of those two exceptional reviews make you even the least bit interested in Spore and you haven't already played it, I could pretty highly actually recommend it, especially since it's usually on sale for like $2 these days. Messing around with the creature creator is honestly worth it on its own, and it's always fun to take a look at games that made history. Review bomb history. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've made it this far, you are clean and may join my civilization. Together, we will take over worlds. If you subscribe, anyway. Just found an ancient stone tablet with an original review from oh god damn it.